The year is 2025. A trade dispute between the US and Canada erupts, not on a distant battlefield but along the Alaska Highway, a vital link through Western Canada. Once a symbol of post-war cooperation, the highway now marks a new front in a high-stakes political standoff. President Trump announces sweeping 25% tariffs on all Canadian goods, sending shockwaves through Canada's trade-dependent economy. In response, British Columbia targets the Alaska Highway, threatening tolls on American trucks supplying Alaska. This calculated move strikes at a critical American vulnerability, making clear that Canada won't be a passive victim in a trade war. The highway, built during World War II as a lifeline, is now a pressure point in a bitter family feud. Alaskans, truckers, and businesses find themselves caught in the crossfire as routine commerce turns into a geopolitical standoff. The message from Canada: hurt us, and we'll hurt you back. What was once a quiet supply route is now the center of a crisis that could unravel a century of friendship. The world watches as a simple road becomes the stage for a dramatic confrontation. The hum of trucks is replaced by the roar of political rhetoric. The Alaska Highway, once taken for granted, is now a symbol of how quickly alliances can be tested. British Columbia Premier David Eby announces the Economic Stabilization Tariff Response Act, empowering the province to impose tolls on U.S. trucks heading to Alaska. Eby frames the move as a defense against President Trump's tariffs, calling out American bullying and warning of deeper consequences. The Alaska Highway becomes a choke point, Canada's leverage in a high-stakes game of geopolitical chicken. The tolls aren't automatic but a threat. If tariffs hit, so will the tolls. Deputy Premier Nikki Sharma calls for a united Team Canada approach, urging provinces to stand together. Legal questions about international agreements are brushed aside as political necessity takes over. Eby orders provincial agencies to stop buying American products and pulls U.S. alcohol from government liquor stores, especially from Republican-led states. The conflict is no longer just economic, it's personal, cultural, and political. British Columbia signals it's willing to absorb pain to inflict greater damage on its opponent. The province's bold stance turns a trade dispute into a national rallying point. Canada's message: we won't be intimidated, and we'll fight back with every tool we have. The stage is set for escalation, with both sides digging in. President Trump's response is swift and uncompromising. He blasts Canada and Premier Eby, calling the toll threat an attack on American sovereignty. Trump doubles down on his 25% tariff threat, warning of immediate, sweeping economic retaliation if tolls are imposed. The rhetoric escalates, with Trump hinting at even stronger measures and making provocative remarks about military options and annexation. The crisis deepens as both sides trade threats, transforming a trade dispute into a diplomatic emergency. Trump's tough talk rallies his base, framing the conflict as a test of American strength. For his supporters, the details matter less than the principle. America won't be pushed around. The threat of tariffs and tolls looms over every sector, from agriculture to manufacturing. The diplomatic relationship between the two countries is strained to the breaking point. Officials on both sides scramble to prepare for scenarios once thought unthinkable. The world watches as the US and Canada edge closer to a full-blown trade war. The stage is set for further escalation, with no easy off-ramp in sight. For Alaska's 730,000 residents, the highway dispute is a direct threat to daily life. While most cargo arrives by ship, the goods trucked in, fresh food, critical equipment, are irreplaceable. Tolls on the Alaska Highway mean higher prices and potential shortages, especially for perishable items. State Senator and trucker Robert Myers warns that increased costs will hit consumers hard, with essentials like lettuce and milk becoming luxuries. Alaska's oil and gas industry faces costly delays if equipment shipments are disrupted. The Alaska Trucking Association warns of a ripple effect across the state's economy. Alaska's isolation is laid bare. Its lifeline runs through a foreign country now locked in conflict with Washington. Governor Mike Dunleavy urges leaders to find a solution before Alaskans pay the price. For Alaska, the highway standoff is a crisis with real, immediate consequences. British Columbia's bold move sparks a wave of solidarity across Canada. Provinces unite in a Team Canada strategy, launching their own retaliatory measures. Ontario imposes a 25% surcharge on electricity exports to the US, targeting states dependent on Canadian power. Yukon halts purchases from American companies and restricts US access to government contracts. Grassroots calls for further action, like banning Donald Trump Jr. from the Yukon, reflect growing frustration. The federal government, led by Prime Minister Trudeau, adds its own retaliatory tariffs. Provincial actions add a personal, regional dimension to the conflict. Canada signals it won't be divided or intimidated, digging in for a prolonged fight. The country's economic heartland and remote territories stand together. The message: Canada will defend its sovereignty, whatever the cost. Washington strikes back, targeting British Columbia's economic jugular, the cruise ship industry. Alaska Senator Dan Sullivan proposes waiving the Passenger Vessel Services Act, allowing cruise ships to bypass Canadian ports. This threatens billions in revenue for BC, which relies on cruise traffic from Seattle to Alaska. The precedent exists. Congress did it during the pandemic. With nearly 2 million cruise passengers expected, the stakes for BC are enormous. Sullivan's message: disrupt our supply chain, and will devastate your tourism sector. The cruise ship gambit raises the stakes, showing the U.S. has its own powerful leverage. Premier Eby faces a tough choice: escalate or compromise. The dispute is no longer just about trucks, it's about ships, jobs, and entire regional economies. Both sides hold hostages in this economic standoff. The world waits to see who will blink first. Beyond the headlines, ordinary people feel the pain of the escalating conflict. Alaskan truckers, once friendly with BC locals, now feel betrayed as tolls threaten their livelihoods. Business owners on both sides worry about lost customers and empty shelves. A hotelier in Fort Nelson fears for her business if truckers and tourists stop coming. An Alaskan grocer braces for shortages and angry customers as prices rise. Political leaders channel public anger. Premier Eby stands defiant, while Senator Sullivan vows Alaska won't be held hostage. The dispute exposes the deep ties and frustrations that define the Canada-US relationship. In the Yukon, even personal gestures, like banning Trump Jr., reflect the emotional toll. The world's longest undefended border suddenly feels fragile. Decades of goodwill are at risk as a political fight disrupts daily life. For those living along the border, this isn't just news, it's a crisis at their doorstep. The human cost of political brinkmanship is impossible to ignore. As tensions peak, the only way forward is de-escalation and diplomacy. Leaders must lower the rhetoric and create space for real negotiation. A mutual stand-down, US drops tariff threats, BC shelves tolls, could reset relations. Both sides need a face-saving compromise, returning to established trade dispute mechanisms. New agreements could protect critical infrastructure like the Alaska Highway from future political fights. The crisis is a stark reminder of the value of US-Canada partnership. By choosing cooperation over conflict, both nations can restore trust and stability. The world's longest friendly border depends on it.